Yo, what's up? This is your host, Ronek, and we're back with another episode at Got No Control Podcast, graffiti podcast for all graffiti writers. We got New York in the building today. ZC, what's up, my brother?
What's going on? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, thank you. And I want to start by saying thank you for stopping by and taking the time to speak some graph today.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here, man. It's an honor to be
It's a pleasure. So let's jump into it, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a little bit about how was it for you growing up in the graffiti scene back in New York?
Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, got to be honest with you. We had elders that were out there. I remember being raised by guys like Lee Quiones, Conan, TDT, KGB, my man Tev. He had a brother named Sev who still bombs. But they told us when we were young, we started like 78, 79. And we were told, you got to do something with your tag. You got a tag, you got to do something with it. So if you got a tag, can you do a throwy?
Okay.
If you could do a throwy, can you do a piece? If you could do a piece, can you do characters?
Dope.
If you could do all of that, we'll let you out. And so
by let out, what do you mean let out? Like go paint?
Don't go writing in our neighborhood unless you got those components intact.
Oh, so you got to earn it.
You got to earn it.
Okay.
And so there was an element of being a toy, for the most. But Tev told us how not to be. And
Gotcha.
It was perfecting those things. You got the tag, you got your name, you got to do something with the name. And how much skill do you have to do something with it?
Okay.
So some dudes that can do throwies, like my man Cope, he does throw-ups, thousands of throw-ups a year. Second nature for him.
Talking Cope too?
Yes.
Okay.
And, you got guys that piece, and some cats that piece, they got crazy piece styles. There's guys out here in the West Coast, got some really ill styles, guys in the middle of the country, guys across the world too, just crazy ill piece styles.
Yeah.
And so you look for that. You look for someone that's got a strong skill base. And originality was something that they told us to don't bite nobody. Don't take nobody's tag. Don't bite nobody's name. Do the best that you can to be original.
And what part of New York was this?
We came out of the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And if you can think geographically, you got the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, which is 10 blocks away from what we know as Ground Zero, World Trade Center. Alfred E. Smith Projects was where we grew up at. Most of the writers was in there. We got connector crews all over the place. There was TNS, Hot Crew, WKS, of course, TDT, DTA. There was so many of them that came out. And then the outer crew, which you had to get into, was OG, was this Asian cat named SF, and another cat named Lee 3. And you couldn't get into TDT or any of those other connector crews until you got in through them first.
So a connector crew was like the top dogs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you had to kind of work your way in, and then they would see what you were made of, because back home, where we come from, it's not about your color, it's not about your race, it's not about your class or nothing like that. It's the merit of the person. That's what it is. And so it didn't, for us, we look for to see difference. We would want to see somebody that looked different from us, because we would learn from them, not only culture-wise, but then our subculture of hip-hop, we could share it then too.
Okay, that's dope, brother. Thank you for sharing that. And what attracted your interest to graffiti?
My older brother.
Your older brother?
And I'll be honest with you, he used to run with Lee Quiones, but for me, we lived in the projects, and we would walk to the trains.
Okay.
And I have family that lived in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, Queens, and it was always amazing. That was our internet back then. We didn't have no internet. That was our internet.
There was no Instagram, no Twitter,
no Instagram, no Twitters, none of that. No face cracks, none of that. But if you was able to get your name on a train or on a truck or something that went out of your neighborhood into someone else's neighborhood, somebody will eventually figure out who you were.
And we're talking about like these subways that you see like in Wild Style and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that experience? How was the experience being there, being at a subway, painting it around the whole culture and meeting other writers right there at the subways?
I'll be honest, we were taught how to go. We used the Brooklyn, the Manhattan Bridge first.
Okay.
There was a multi-lane layup that was inside of there, and it was easy for us because we would walk. It's almost like for you, you're really close to Target right over here. It's like walking from here to Target.
Okay.
You're already in the tunnels by then.
Dope.
And so it's that close. The other layup that we had was City Hall, and literally right under City Hall was a multi-lane layup.
Yeah.
And for us, since we lived in Smith Projects, it was easy for us to get in and easy for us to get out.
Gotcha.
And we had people that monitored the layups. There was a guy named Renard. He would wear this dusty sheepskin in there every time we see him. He's scared of living daylights out of us, but he would always tell us, like, be careful in here. And one thing that, I got to tell you that's amazing. We used to take tunnel tags, right? We're not paying any attention. My man Sev sent this to me last year.
By tunnel tags, you mean like just catching spots on the way?
Catching spots inside the tunnels, right? And that's big these days because you can't really bomb the subways no more. People do, but you're really not supposed to.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to anyway, but we did. But walking through the tunnels, you take some tags, right?
Okay.
So Tev sent me this tag. It must have been 79 or something like that. And I'm tripping out. He goes, yo, Z, man, I found one of these tags. I'm sending you this picture. And I'm going, oh, snap. Like, wow, this is still down there? I thought it'd be covered by soot already or something.
It's still rocking landmark.
It's still down there. And there was always something about painting with silvers.
Okay.
And so if you're down in the tunnels and you're using a bright chrome silver, now I know that they last.
Man, silver's dope, bro, because when you're shading in there, man, that thing takes up everything.
Yeah, and it's covering everything.
Sometimes if you don't got the roller paint, silver the way to go.
Yeah, yep.
But was there any rules to follow, bro, while you're painting the subways?
Yeah, there was. And then as there were rules, there weren't any. And so you got, here's a really good one. You had dudes that was doing like burner pieces, right?
Yeah.
And there was guys like Cap around. He would come around and he would just obliterate your piece with his throw up.
So there was more than one doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just Cap.
Cap made it
Popular
and untouchable.
Okay.
Like if he would splatter your piece, you probably spent 45 minutes to an hour on your piece. He takes 3 seconds and does a throw up over it. Your piece is ruined.
Yeah.
And then when that car leaves and it starts moving around, that's the first thing that they see is that Cap throwy over your piece.
Damn.
So the rules were basically if you got a tag, the tag's the tag, but then here comes a throw up. So throw up, then right over that, if somebody wants to do a piece, we're going to do a piece over your throwing. That's just the way it is. Then opposite, similar, somebody could come in and then you got a piece, they put a throwy right over your piece. That's how it is. And when Cope started bombing, that's another thing. When he started bombing, he was just doing throw ups everywhere. I mean, it was just splat,
Yeah.
And the more throwies, you kind of getting the idea. This guy's he's for real. And the difference, I think, for me from Cap to Cope is Cap tried to do some pieces here and there. Cope kind of perfected the pieces. They were doing straight letters, blockbusters, all of that stuff down there in Morrison Park. Cope kind of moved it over to being able to do these burners. And the burners were a little bit different than the TikTok pieces, the blockbusters, the straight letters and all of that. There was some styles that were added to it.
Yeah.
So it became a lot more. So with the rules like that, where there aren't any, you still kind of have to figure out where are you at and then to be creative enough. That's why roofies became popular.
Okay. By roofies, you mean like rooftops?
Rooftops,
okay.
yeah. And we will call them roofies. So you're getting into the habit of doing something like that, and then it's too hard to get up there. Like my man Sev would do roofies in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And it would be so hard to get to where he got to do these roofies. And some people looking like, how in the world did you do? How did he get up there like that? And then the throw, perfect. No shaky hands, no nothing. Perfect fill. I mean, and it's great, and these days you look around, now it's obliterated. Everybody figured it out.
How did you take the transition, bro, where like it was like, all right, we can't do the subways no more because the law's tripping. So transition to the street.
Yeah.
How did you take the transition?
Well, I'm gonna bring up my man Viefer from WKS.
Viefer?
Yes.
Shout out Viefer.
Wefer WKS, my man V. We always had this thing. There would be about 6, 7 of us at a time. We would go bombing or more. And we would always save a second half. We would call it the second half. And if he gets a chance to see this right now, I mean, he'll be like, yeah, we always had a second half. So we would bomb the trains, and you want to save enough markers, or you got enough ink, or you got enough paint, because right after that, we're going to go do the streets too.
So okay, so that's what you mean by
we were already ready for it, because to tell you the truth, before some of us got into bombing trains, you're already bombing the streets already. You're already taking tags on the street.
Okay.
So we were conditioned for that already. So by the time New York City, pretty much, they didn't do away with it, but it's kind of crazy when you go into jail, somebody asks you what you in here for, and you say graffiti, and that doesn't go over too well. They
start tripping.
Yeah. So I got a number of friends in Brooklyn, around the rest of the boroughs that they've gone in for various graffiti issues, and it stands out as something. It's not robbing a bank, but it's not murder, but you're doing something else.
Did you guys ever deal with like what we deal with in LA? Well, not me personally, but other cats were like, the gang culture. Like, oh man, fuck graffiti writers. You're either gangbanging or nothing.
Right.
Did you ever have that out there in New York?
Yeah, I'll be honest. My oldest brother, he wasn't a graffiti writer. He was an actual gangster.
Okay, he was a gangster.
So if you remember that movie, The Warriors,
Yeah.
very, very true story. And he was in that era. He's around that era. For us, he used to tell me when I was young, he's like, look, if you're writing graffiti, you got to be careful because you're going into neighborhoods, people don't know you. And just like your neighborhood is, ain't nobody gonna be able to get into your neighborhood. So you need to be careful because you graffiti dudes might be doing this. Some of these other cats, these live wires, we used to call them live wires.
Okay,
you might run into these live wires around here, they ain't gonna let you out, you know? And so for us, by the time that things really got solidified, TDT was pretty massive. And so TDT being connected to TNS, we would go in drones. Also GTF, that was another one that was pretty
by
good.
By drones? What do you mean by drones?
Drones, just a massive people. You might have 15, 20 heads that's bombing. So you got cats that's in the layups or the yards. You're not gonna mess with a bunch of dudes like that. And you might be 3 or 4 of you.
Yeah.
You know, and so the only ones that I knew that was really like that was Hot Crew. My man Seek, Go For, Dush, BB. Those cats there would be 4 or 5 of them, and there would be kids in the layup. Yo, who's in the layup? This is Hot Crew.
Like tripping.
Yo, and they would go up to the platform.
Yeah.
And this is Hot Crew, you know, and cats would be like, oh no, we ain't messing with them. And my man Seek at the time, he was getting big. He was kind of big.
Like
you know,
built big?
Built big.
Okay.
And then Go For, rest in peace, he passed away not too long ago. My man Go For just loved to bomb.
Okay.
But these dudes was hood cats. And so that's where it comes in. Like most gangbangers, they hood dudes.
Yeah.
And
like dope boys selling dope and stuff.
Yeah, for us, we selling, you know, just the fact of getting the graffiti out there. That was our thing. It was just to push the graffiti as hard as we could. And then if you got a good momentum pushing your graph, you're not gonna let nobody tamper with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Regardless. And then if you gotta get people with you to connect, that was so special about being in our neighborhood because everybody connected.
Yeah.
Special shout out to my man Bernardino.
Shout out.
He's also in Smith Projects too. He does 5 Borough Life Clothing. Okay. He was a live wire. And he would look at us, man, where y'all going? We going bombing. He used to write CERN. We used to tell him he used to write SERN.
Yeah.
And he really wasn't a graffiti writer. He was the live wire. And so every now and then in your crew, you're gonna have a live wire, or you want a couple of them.
Yeah.
Or your whole entire crew is live wires.
The live wires were still, you know, hardcore gangsters, but still down with the graffiti.
Yeah, they were hard body cats that had styles. And it's just how they manifested themselves. And they were pretty much like, look, we're protectors, we're guarding things, and sometimes it's like even our people. We ain't gonna let nothing happen to our people, whoever is with us, you know.
Okay.
So that was the good thing about it because
like a neighborhood type thing.
Yes. So within the neighborhood, we even had my man used to write Air. He was Chinese. My man SF, he was Chinese. These dudes were brolic live wire cats, man. Yeah. They used to run with this crew called the Destroyers. That's the first half of TDT.
Okay.
These cats, and we would look at them, they had nasty hand styles too. Like, yo, how you get them nasty hand styles like that? And here again, it didn't matter what color you were. And that's why I feel like later on in years, that was important.
And that's something that I share in the podcast, bro. That's something that I love about graffiti. Because painting graffiti, bro, it doesn't really matter what you look like, what your skin color, what language you speak. What matters is how dope can you get down with that can.
That's right. That's right.
And that's something I appreciate about the culture.
Yes, me too.
And can you share, brother, out there being in New York coming up, when you were coming up, what was available for you as far as utensils to paint?
Nothing.
I
learned from the greats how to make a marker.
Okay.
We used to be in the grocery stores and take the carbon paper and put alcohol in it. You got ink.
Yeah.
Back then we didn't have anything. We coming out to projects, and so racking was really important. You had to have some rack skills with you. We didn't have anything. So
can you talk a little bit about rack skills?
Yeah. One of the things that was it. We didn't have what most today writers is running around with cans that you could buy out the store.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. And then when they seen us come in the store, they didn't want us in the store anyway because they knew that we was going to be stealing paint. What happened right after that? They start putting cages around the cans.
Okay.
So that didn't help. We're picking locks, breaking the cage open, just run off with the whole entire cage. But some cats was good. Like I remember certain cats would go in, they'd be in a store for a couple of minutes, come right back out, and they probably got 2-3 dozen cans of paint.
And what kind of cans are we talking?
Krylon, Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum was really popular. Red Devil. You had all types of strange paints back then.
But not as many colors as now, though, huh?
Yeah, now you have these array of colors and then these variations. Like you got this one can right here. These days, how many variations of blue? Just like this blue, how many? You might find about 10 of these variations of this particular color. And you want that. You want the variations. But back then, you had a little bit of the variations and you may have to mix. Mix your can. If you're using a Rust-Oleum, you may end up having to use a Krylon along with it.
So you guys are just piecing stock tip as well?
Yeah, I learned from my man Conan a stock cap, and everybody out here calls them tips.
Okay.
When I had the shop, we really tried to keep the terminology universal. So we said fat caps, or skinny caps, New York caps, Rusto caps. I remember Conan showing me, I was about 9 years old, and said it was a stock cap.
Yeah.
And the stock cap it's got a little slit in, no big slit.
Yeah.
He showed me how to cut. He took a razor blade right where the slit is, slice it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then make a hole inside of here. And then next thing you know, you got a fat cap.
Sure enough, fat.
Yeah. And he's back then, Conan would flare his tag so good that people would wonder, where's he getting these caps? And some guys would get the caps off the testers, the little model cans.
Did you guys have the little Elmer can too?
Yes, we had those. There was an array of stuff that we were using.
So you had to be creative to figure out, okay, I want to do something different. It's time to put the mind to work.
Right. And then I think that's the thing too, is that we didn't have anything. We come from a place where we didn't have no money. We come from the projects. None of us have money. And we're young kids. And so what young kids around that time, they stealing everything. You know, and so we had to learn. We learned the hard way. I remember catching a hammer in my shoulder when I was about 10. Still got the paint, but then I never went back to that store. But come to find out, I walked, about 15, 16 at the time. I see the store guy. I had to apologize to him,
Yeah.
And some guys, they didn't care. Many of us said, keep your karma good. Keep the things around you in a good way, because you never know when things could go wrong. Things could go wrong.
Brother, I totally feel that one. And, coming from nothing, because I could relate, being young and just being wild and not having much. Would you say graffiti was kind of like a way to just get away from that negativity?
Absolutely. Yes, it was. And, coming up in the 70s, this is before crack came.
Yeah.
You had so much stuff. We lived in the probably worst zip code in the Lower East Side. You had Alphabet City, burnt out tenement buildings at the time. You had just blocks that were just completely just obliterated.
Yeah.
People walking around like zombies. It was a crazy time, and being safe sometimes was just being out of the way. And a lot of times for me, I would just go into the trains, man. I'd just be on it in the tunnels, or there was times we would end up with, they call them skeleton keys.
Okay.
So you can get into the insides of the cars and do your insides and stuff. So we was doing that. So you could kill off a whole day just bombing. And by the time you get out, or kill a night bombing. And that kept us out of the way, and then it kept us in a place where the live wires knew who we were, and some of us became live wires because of it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it kept us out of the way while all this other stuff was going on. You had a lot of stuff happening in that era at that time.
And how was the law with graffiti back in those days? Like, how were, if you were to get caught tagging by like a police officer or someone from the law, how would they treat it?
Okay, in the trains, you had these guys called work bums.
Okay.
Right?
You said work bums?
Work bums. We called them work bums. There was guys who maintain the tracks, watch the trains, and keep people like us away.
Yeah.
They were like the first line of people that you would run into. The cops, very rarely, when it got into the 80s, that's when the cops started going into the tunnels. They really wouldn't go in there that much because raids would happen. During the early 70s, it was wide open. No one paid attention. No one was paying attention. So you got things like the Faith of Graffiti book, where you could see all of these old styles that were developing over time.
Yeah.
Guys back then would walk right in to the train yards. The fences weren't the way that they were today. You could just walk right in, and sometimes they wouldn't even lock the doors. So you could just walk in. If you can get into the layup or the yard, one of those cars is going to have an open door.
Yeah.
So you're going to find a way to get in. Back then, it wasn't on their radar until I got to say when Mayor Koch came.
Yeah.
He hated graffiti, hated it.
Like with the passion.
Yeah, he was really, really. And my older brother, actually, to tell you the truth, my older brother used to work for fixed assets.
Okay.
And one day he told me to come down there Mayor Koch was going to be there. And funny thing, I had this graffiti jacket on, this denim jacket. And my brother said, man, you better take that off, man, because it's not going to be good. I'm like, no, I ain't going to take it off. I ain't going to take it off. If you got something bad, if you got something bad, and I will explain it. And I told him, give me an opportunity to explain it, because the thing for us back then, we were coming out of these neighborhoods, and it didn't matter which borough or neighborhood you came from, but you're coming from a place that's below. We had this underworld in New York that was that's why it was called a rotten apple.
Yeah.
It was just bad. I mean, LA experienced the same thing. A lot of urban centers experienced the same thing.
Definitely.
This looks a little bit different. The buildings might be taller. Out here, it might be a little bit more flat, but it's the same action. It's the same thing. So Koch, he actually looks at me, didn't recognize that there was graffiti on the back of my jacket all up until after the picture was taken. and he had said to my brother, you know him? I said, yeah, it's my little brother. And he goes, we don't like that. And my brother's looking at me, and I said, give me a chance, let me tell him. And he said, okay, go ahead. So I said, Mayor Koch, I like the fact that you're our mayor. I'm young, but that's the thing you have to understand. What did you do when you were young? And did you do some of these things that somebody had to tell you, you probably don't want to do those things? Our culture is about expressionism. We're expressing ourselves. And in a time where you're saying that the city's doing this, we're the ones telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And so he accepted that, and my brother told me, he says, not only did I not get in trouble, but he said when he got back, they gave him a promotion.
That's dope.
So it was crazy.
Just tell him I'm gonna need a little cut now.
But I got to big up Papa G too, man, because he's seen a lot of it. Where before all of this stuff started, he was our live wire. Okay. And Smith Projects, where we come from, Alfredi Smith Projects, the whole project knew him, and the dudes that he ran around with, and he was. They would consider him like the project protector. So if a project, someone's grandmother, mother's walking through the project and people's acting rah-rah all crazy, they would be the ones to make sure she gets to the building safely.
Okay.
So
very respectful.
Yeah. And so they instilled that into us too. Like you have to be careful about not only the people around you, but respect people. Because we would like the same respect, especially someone that's a senior. You can't go do some of the things that we're doing and you're gonna go do the same thing to the senior. You can't do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's another one of the things that they instilled in us early. Look out for your elders, because we're gonna be there one day. You're gonna want somebody to look out for you. Don't burn that bridge, because when people need to cross the bridge to come get you, make sure that they can get to you.
And aside of that, bro, sometimes you'll get beat up for acting like that.
Yes, because that's somebody's mom, somebody's grandma, somebody's sister. And I don't know how many times I've seen it in New York and here, on other urban centers. I've been in a number of places in my life, and I'm going, it still holds.
Yeah,
respect your elders, man.
You got to keep that respect level.
Yeah, because today, I'm not saying that it's less, but today I can say there's like a complete, total loss of consciousness in people in certain aspects.
Definitely, I could totally agree with that.
I'm like, yo, wait a minute. It's not even from driving in the street, but just your normal one-on-one with people. It's not the same as it used to be.
And you got this guy be like, telling you like, man, what do you know, old man? It's 2022. You got those type of people.
Yes. I'm like, you might have think I was born yesterday, but I studied all night. So
like I was 16 once too, my guy.
Yeah. And just as a lot of folks today, well, I command this. Well, you have to be able to give it in order to receive it.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to touch on this, brother. You coming to Long Beach, you had a very big impact in the city. Can you share a little bit about that transition? How do you make the transition from New York to Long Beach?
The secret was the West Coast liked New York.
Okay.
New York loved the West Coast. And what I thought at the time was, whatever's in New York, bring it to LA.
Okay.
That was the secret. That's the formula. And so I said, if it came down to DVDs, some things that we had back home, that are pretty popular now. They're easy to get. See that kind of fad is over with. But certain other things that we had and had access to. I remember Cap coming and him telling me, I'd never been out here before. And
to LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd never been to LA before. And thanks to Cope 2 for setting that up 2 years ago.
Shout out Cope too.
Yeah. And it was me and Thoughts, my man Thoughts. Me and him go pick up Cap from the airport.
Yeah.
And
so you guys were already down here, and then Cap came.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually, to tell you the truth, that was another side of the formula. Was LA had so much of its own influence, but they always had this thing in looking at New York. And New Yorkers, like Scene came out here before, West been out here. You got a number of notable, like Duster lives out here.
Okay.
So you got notable writers that are here, and like.
So when you came down here, there was already graffiti.
Yeah, there's already graffiti writers that are from New York that already have been here. They already came through here.
Okay.
But
so is it fair to say that New York brought the graffiti down here?
I can't say that because LA had its own style of graph, and I've gotten into discussions with that with people where I can't necessarily say New York brought it. New York had its own type of graffiti culture, right?
Okay.
LA had its own type of graffiti culture. And I had to go back. I watched Boulevard Nights. Boulevard Nights is an old West Coast lowrider movie.
Hey, Chuco.
Hey, Chuco. Come on, let's go. And I'm looking at that. There's graffiti in that movie.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
It's funny that you mentioned that because not many people notice it.
Right. And for me, I'm an old school guy. I grew up around watching stuff like that. So that's why I can't say, and there's proof, that's the evidence.
Yeah.
Is LA already had an semblance of graffiti going already as it was. New York just had a different way of doing it.
Okay.
And LA had a different way of doing it. And what I loved over time was the styles would switch. You know, you had, when Scene came out here, when Scene came out, and he's standing by the Hollywood sign. You know, there's pictures of that. He's by the Hollywood sign, and that did something. It created a buzz. There's a guy out from New York now. I got to big up my man too, Duel from Riss.
Okay.
He goes back and forth too. He pieces. He's got a crazy throw up. He's doing stuff now that the energy level that the Bombers had back then. He's doing it in such a way today that. I'm seeing top to bottoms running. I'm seeing whole cars running.
Yeah.
This dude's doing rollers. He's got pieces. I remember he came to the shop and he brought Sphere from Kraftwerk Kings.
Okay.
And big up Sphere, big up Duel. Them two came and they did some burners around in the shop, which was great. Me and Duel start talking and we're like, let's bring somebody else out. So we bring out Min from RTW.
Okay.
Min's never been out here either.
Oh, so you guys provided like the ticket and everything for them to come down here?
We gave them everything they needed to come out. All we wanted them to do, like I told Cap, can you do a couple of throw-ups? He's like, I hate doing these throw-ups. I hate them. He's like, all right. So that was good because we had one night in the second shop location where the boxing gym is now.
Yeah.
There was at least 500 or 600, almost 1,000 people in there that night that Cap was there.
Wow.
It was massive.
It was crazy in there. You guys had music and everything?
We had DJs in there, and then we had to split it up because we were telling DJs, I had an ex-partner at the time, AC, the program director. He was kind of the guy, look, you got this amount of time.
Yeah.
You got another DJ coming, which I would love when Fez come. When Fez would come from Huma,
yeah,
he would come and mix all these rare grooves and everything, and everybody would just be like, oh, man.
Shout out Huma, they're local right here in the city.
Man, straight up shout out to Huma, man. Big ups, big ups.
So what was your mentality like, bro? Like you got to LA, and what was your younger self telling yourself? Like, all right, I'm here. What's the next step?
Be a nomad. Just keep moving. You got a momentum. There's a story. There's things that I can learn from people, which I did.
Yeah.
I loved painting around. To be honest with you, I remember painting with Vile.
Okay.
You know, my art curator out here went and found Vile and brought him. Me and Thoughts painted next to him. We painted next to a lot of cool people out here in the West Coast. UTI cats, I2W cats. I remember when Risk from WCA, he came to the shop one time, blazed up the wall. Wall looked like it was literally on fire. My man Ezra was nasty with those portraits, and he's doing portraits with spray cans. And I'm going, how in the world are you doing that, bro? What's the matter with you?
And freehanding it
and
too.
Freehanding. He's got no sketches, no nothing. He's just like that, you know, and you come back 2 or 3 minutes later, and he's got this full on board piece up there. I'm like, oh, man, and it's up. You know,
Yeah.
he stands on ladders and everything. Speaking of ladders, there's a kid named Catch from Hawaii.
Catch?
Catch.
Okay.
And they're down with NASA. NASA's another LA crew.
That's an older crew.
Older crew,
Yeah.
but these dudes are nice. You got Rich, Catch, what's my man, YT, Just 195.
Okay.
A few of those cats there. I painted alongside them too and learned a lot watching them. And they paint big, you know, and they're the types of, you got a 60-foot wall, they're covering everything.
For those out there that don't know or don't know about you, I just want to share that you were responsible for opening the very first graffiti shop around here in the city of Long Beach, which was called Air Graphic Shop.
Yes.
And it was located on Pine.
Yes, the first location.
That was a fucking like a toy store for me when I was a kid.
It was a toy store to me too, man. It was.
Can you explain a little bit about how that came about and a little info on that?
I used to go before the shop came. This is probably around 2000, 99, 2000. I always had mixtapes on me. Always. Had mixtapes and DVDs. That's one of the things that we were doing while I was selling.
It's like a little side hustle.
Yeah, I always was hustling something, but kept it clean. It was a product.
Yeah.
Product to service is what we would do. And so I remember I was going to Texas, I was going to Arizona, I went up into Oakland, I went to San Francisco, trunk full of tapes, DVDs, all types of stuff. And so I got to the point where I'm tired of driving.
Yeah.
You know, and what would it look like if I could have a brick and mortar for a minute? And so 1143 Pine, to tell you the truth, the overhead on it at the time was so cheap. I was spending more on product than I was on my rent.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, that was perfect because it was easy. It was really, really easy.
What year are we talking?
The doors officially opened up at 1143 Pine in late 2003.
Okay.
And I had a neighbor who had a neighborhood store, and they call them marquetas out here, but back home in New York, we call them bodegas.
Okay.
She had a bodega, right?
Oh, so that's where that term comes from. I was wondering,
Yeah.
bodega,
Yes,
because I hear that in marquetas.
Yeah, marquetas is out here, bodegas is back home in New York. She had the bodega. I got to call it a bodega, bro. And she said she had this extra space right there. She wasn't doing anything with it. I told her, I'll take it. And then I said, what do you want for a month? She's like, give me $300. I said, that's it?
Hey, give me the $300 dog opener right now.
I went like this, man. It's a couple of months in advance, right?
Yeah.
And she said, are you really? Are you for real? I'm like, yeah, I want this space. So she went to the owner of the building and said she was subletting. And he didn't mind it. He said, if you give me just a fraction of that, I'll just let it happen.
Yeah.
So I go out to Aaron's. This is probably about late 2004. I go out to Aaron's on Highland. This is a whole little dusty record shop.
Okay.
And that's where I'll find a lot of stuff, or take stuff to them. And I got to tell the truth about it. This is how this thing worked. And so I go in there and find this mixtape from AC, the program director.
Okay.
And I look on the back of the tape. He's got all of these cool songs on it, stuff I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
People Under the Stairs, and how do you get a remix of Funk Dubious? Hey, wait a minute, man. He had all of these strange unheard ofs on the back of this mixtape. So I call him up. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? And I said, I'm getting ready to open up a shop. I see you got some tapes here. I'd like to put your tapes in. He said to me, if you build that shop, I'll come. And so will everybody else.
And he was popping at the time?
He was cracking.
Okay.
Yeah, he would, every show if you had people coming out from New York or from wherever, he would always have a booth out. And then his thing was hip hop philosophy.
Okay.
So we'd have T-shirts and mixtapes, hoodies, all of that kind of stuff. He's another product to service kind of guy.
Dope.
And so we formed this thing. I had the name already. Me and my older brother, rest in peace, Brad, me and him came up with the Airgraph Effects name. And to tell you the truth, if you listen to EPMD where it says, I want effects, the live effects, I want effects, the live effects. Me and him said, Airgraph Effects, we want effects.
Yeah.
And that's what, we were like, that's it.
That's it. Let's roll with it.
So let's go. And so I start bringing tapes in. I pull out a couple tables and I got tapes, DVDs, I had shirts, a few different things. AC comes in, he brings his stuff. The first guest that we had was J. Rue the Damager.
Oh, you had him right there in Long Beach?
Yeah.
Dope.
We did a show on the back of my Jeep
in
the alleyway.
No way.
Right there in 1143 Pine. And it was so dope. you know, and I got to give AC big ups on this because it was hybrid, like out of nowhere.
Okay.
And so it was a good thing to have happen, not only for hip hop, but also for us, because here was an AC and here was a ZC. It was almost like there was this thing that was building.
Kind of like meant to be.
Oh man! And then we would go out to these events together. You know, we've been to places where they would have these graph events. I remember when Man One from Crew West, he did the Meeting of Styles down in the LA River.
Okay.
And he brought all the LA writers out. They came from everywhere.
Deep.
I'm like deep like the abyss deep. And it was great because as people are ripping burners down there, you get to, you know, big up and dap everybody. It was peaceful that day. Stuff was happening, but then again, at the same time, we kept it peaceful. I got to big up my man Dose too, because Dose was one that he knew everybody. He just knew everybody. So between AC and Dose, they connected me a lot too. And I respected them for that because they were looking at me like, you're bringing something.
That's dope that they did that.
And then they let me come in, you know? So I was like, wow, this is really cool. So in that, the way that happened at the time, it was great, you know? And I can't necessarily say that now because the business model, it didn't go the way AC and I had anticipated. The rent costs went up.
Yeah.
We had to move locations. We both had life situations happening.
Yeah, because right now, if you're trying to get that spot again, bro, you're probably looking like $5,000 a month. Right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah, if you go back down there and then
like 5,000, they don't care what you're bringing, how you're helping, or why they want their money.
That's why I said to myself, if you got brick and mortar right now, and if your overhead is too much, and you spending more on your overhead or more on your overhead than you are on your product, your balance sheet ain't looking right. And to me, I'm going, that don't make no sense. And so it told me, don't stop selling paint.
Yeah.
Just don't do it the brick and mortar way, but keep doing it. So like I said, I got to big up my man Buster. He came through. I got a couple of other heads that have come to visit. And
so it started as you moving the records and stuff like that and bringing in hip hop artists. Mm-hmm. How did you start with bringing in the graffiti utensils? Because me personally, coming up around the city, that was the first time I ever seen a Montana can inside your shop.
Wow. I'll be honest with you. At the time, we had Lions Art Store in Long Beach. Okay. And I would go into Lions a lot, and they would ask me questions about, what are you doing down there on Pine? Yeah. And kept things quiet because, you know, business secrets are business secrets, and that's what keeps good businessmen in. And when you release the business, it's already in motion. Yeah. So I was able to tell them, we've gone directly to Montana. And they're like, who's that? And I said, well, it's a spray can company. And they, we want to get into that too. And so at the time, I don't know if anyone that's around Long Beach and was going to Lions at the time on 4th Street, you'd walk into Lions and all of a sudden they had plutonium paint. Okay. It was a really, really bad can of paint. It was terrible. And so they're asking me again, where are you getting the paint from? Because they were sending people down to where we were on 1143 Pine
take a look.
To look around. We had Montanas in there. Iron Lac really wasn't heavy at the time just yet. A lot of the other brands that were out there really
was Molotov off already?
Yeah, Molotov was out there. Beltons were really heavy too. So we were trying to make sure that, and that's what the kids were asking. And I think for me, I could go get Rust-Oleums all day long. Yeah. But these kids kept asking for Montana. And so I'm thinking, serve the need. The supply and demand, so serve the need. These kids are asking you for that. Make sure you got it.
And I think they did a good job with the marketing because they had the well-known graffiti writer sponsoring them. Like, hey, go bust a bomb with this Montana can and show it, take a picture. And then everybody's like, oh, damn, that guy using it. I want to know.
Yeah. And that kind of happened. And you know what was really funny? Between Molotov, and I got to big up Iron Lac too at the time, because by the time we got to the second shop location, a guy named Jeremy came, and I think he's still with Iron Lac, I'm not sure, but he came with a couple of other guys, and they came from Brisbane, Australia.
Oh,
and
wow!
We set up a whole network with them too, and so people like Art Primo, you know, they really didn't like the Airgraph Effect Shop too much because
you guys are messing with money.
To us, it was like, I don't want to have to go to you if I got to go to somebody else. I might as well not deal with you. Let me just go direct. Yeah. And boss for boss kind of thing. I don't want you to, you know, be the middle boss. I'm not dealing with that. I want to talk to the main person. Where you getting your stuff from? Yeah. And they would get mad with me because I had this thing from the IRS said, whatever they're getting it at, they can give it to you at cost. And when I figured that out, because they were always trying to put premiums on top of it, I'm going, I'm not allowing that because my paperwork says you can, if I buy this off for you, you have to give it to me for the cost that you pay for it.
Yeah.
And our primo hated that. And so
is our primo just one guy, or is it a bunch of a whole company?
Now it's a company. I know years ago, we had one guy that we were dealing with, and then we just the relationship really never really got established.
Okay.
And I always thought, from factory to shelf,
Dope.
I don't want to deal with stuff in between like that. For some reason, that was always weird for me. So
I mean, you got to make the most that you can, because at the end of the day, you got to pay bills and you got to do stuff. And
But the other thing too that I was realizing was cats like y'all coming in, and some of you guys would ask me, well, how are you doing what you're doing? And not that I would not tell you guys don't go to Art Primo, but I tell you to eliminate the middleman.
Yeah.
And even if it was me, sometimes you guys would come through, and I loved y'all for coming, because the other side of it also, you were bringing your parents in there, for the ones that were willing to come.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that was really dope, because the parents now understood, well, why is my kid going nuts? Well, now I understand.
Yeah.
And so explaining the whole entire business model to the parents now, and they see it. Okay, well, I got a lot of trust in you now, because you're looking out for my kid, and you explain this to me.
Because you'd rather have your kid in here looking at spray paint and trying to draw than
right,
being out in the
and
street.
being out doing something crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of the parents was telling me that. And then for some of the kids that didn't have anything, including parents, they would be in there, and I'm going, look, we're your community, and if you don't have nothing, we're here for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So if it's the music, if it's the DJing, if it's the MCing, if it's the graffiti writing, even if you can do a handstand, we're here for you. And that was what it was. So take all of the others, basically to answer the question, take everything out of the middle, and you got a one-on-one.
And who would you say was the first Long Beach graffiti crews or graffiti writers that showed you like a good welcome when the store opened?
To tell you the truth, when I first got into Long Beach was in summer of 2000.
Okay.
The first rooftop tag that I saw was Doom's GBC.
Okay.
And I had to tell him that too. When I finally met him, and Mew came in, and there was a great, both of them were super assets to the shop. And so in the mixed in there, a crew called iRise, ER, I saw them a lot. 777s was like a focal point for me. I mean, I would always see 777s up all over the place. And then for me, for the life of me, I never really understood until I was able to meet him. What was the question mark with the X? I never understood that, So when Jeds and Fez would come around, Dweck, he was another one. He had a couple of cats, DWEK.
Okay.
There were different kind of cats. Like they had there was a pure hip hop adrenaline in them.
Yeah.
And so Dose would tell me, Dose is original, who my member too. And I think he was kind of the one too that helped bring some of those local guys through to us, because at the time, Homeland was still running.
Okay.
And so I remember building with Steam from UTI, and it was a really good thing back then, because I remember Cope 2 coming. This is the second time he came. And so Cope's like, oh, we're going to meet up over.
Yeah, I remember when he would come, it would be a big thing.
Yeah, it was huge, So
if I'm not mistaken, you would have a Tumor, TKO, T-Loc down there too.
Yeah. Tumor came. Yeah,
it was a big impact back then.
He was huge too. Yeah, he was doing those war DVDs.
Yeah.
And I used to have to ask him, where you guys getting these DVDs from? He goes, oh man, see, I got you. Don't worry. He came down one time to the shop and said, here, And I'm, whoa, thanks.
And he was the one filming and everything. It was like his production.
He had his own production crew. He had a special set of cats that somebody was doing sounds for him, and someone else was filming. He had somebody that was able to package this DVD up, and then every place that was out there, whether if you were a hole in the wall or if you were Amoeba, you had these things in your shop.
Yeah, they were popular.
Very popular. And I remember Cope coming, and we went over to Tuma's one time, T-Loc's spot, and it was crazy. It was like, oh, snap, man. Wow. But I think that's what it was for me. Like, as the further in that we got into this thing, a lot of love came out of it.
Yeah.
And not only was it from the ground level, below the ground level, but then also spots above.
Did you guys ever have to deal with any type of hate or anybody trying to like take it to the next level?
Yeah.
Was it like super serious?
Yeah. Tag bangers was something that I didn't really understand at the time.
Okay.
I always thought it was either this or this, but they told me that there was a this.
Yeah.
And I learned one day. And one day some tag bangers came in. Dose, AC, and myself was in there.
Yeah.
And some things were said, and I don't remember.
Was it over
specifically.
somebody that you had up right there or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had some things that was happening. And what we did to these dudes, we told them, we ain't your kind of cats that you think we are.
Yeah.
And so what do you mean by that? Walk right past a couple of them and closed and locked the front door.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Or do we talk?
Okay.
Nah, man, I want to let me out. Nah, man, you got something on your mind. I don't want you to walk out of here. You don't really address the problem. I want to help you address it.
Yeah, because words get spread, and then it gets back to you. Like,
yeah, I want you to be able to walk out of here with no problem.
Yeah.
Or
What a problem.
yeah. And so it escalated slightly, but when that door got shut like that, it was like, oh shoot,
That's serious.
Yeah, these dudes are serious. And then Dose stood on one side of the shop.
Yeah.
I was standing in the middle of the shop, and AC was behind the counter at the time.
Yeah.
So all of us was, it was going to be whatever it was going to be. It was 3 of us, 6 of them, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And one of them said, "Let me out." I'm like, "Nah, not till your boy says he wants out.
Yeah.
We could let you out, but I'm not letting none of y'all out till your man right here. He's the one that got the issue.
He got something
We're
to
gonna clear
chest.
the issue first. We're gonna clear the air out of here because we all got to exist.
Yeah.
So either we coexist in this or we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we address that right now, and you guys walk out or we don't.
Yeah.
And the only one other time some wild stuff happened, and this was when the shop was at the second location where VIP Records was. And the neighborhood over there didn't really appreciate it because
like the gang.
the gang community over there didn't really understand what we were doing. Like, I was the face of it. So to me, when I'm looking at them, they accepted me face forward. But when they looked at the people behind me, that they looked different from me, they was like, nah, we don't want that in our neighborhood.
Because over there, aside of just Mexican gangs, you had like the Asian gangs.
Yeah, the Asian gangs was over there.
The black
and you had some
gangs.
brothers over there too. And then some of them was connected and some of them wasn't.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm looking at like, wow, you know what? We got to address it with them too. So I remember one of my homeboys took me over to Anaheim Street, across the street from the library.
Yeah.
And down that block, and introduced me to one of these Asian cats. And he told me, he says, "Z, don't ever worry, man. We gonna be here together."
Yeah.
And I think that's what was important. He goes, "I'm happy that you came over here because I don't like the way that the atmosphere is. We out here in the street, and at the end of the day, it's about money.
Definitely.
It ain't territory at that point, unless it becomes about money." So these guys, I said, look, you guys are dealing with that side of it. You guys deal with that side of it. We're a culture trying to bring people together. The kid told me, that's what we want. We want unity. We need unity. And as a matter of fact, we need guys like you because your face is different. You're a peaceful person up front.
Definitely.
But people figure out what's going on with you. It's a different story. So even they said, no problem. The brothers over there in the neighborhood, that took a little while. That took a while. And
Did they even know what graffiti was?
some of them didn't care. They thought, it was useless and who's going to be doing that. And when they realized what was going on, I remember Warren G went into VIP Records to visit Kel one day. And Kel told Warren, "Oh, I need for you to go next door."
Yeah.
And he goes, Warren, I heard him say it. He goes, "I kept hearing about this store that's here. And I want to see what it's like, And Warren G was connected directly into the street.
Yeah.
So he comes into the shop and he's looking around and AC's got posters like 20 feet up on the ceiling and all of that. And he's like, oh, snap. And there's graffiti everywhere. And it doesn't look like the graffiti that's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So he's asking questions. He's like, yo, man, what is going on up in here? And so AC shows him. He says, I got one of your tapes, man. I got one of your tapes. And Warren's sitting there like, man, I can't believe this. And so he walks out into the back of the parking lot.
You guys had a yard in there,
Yeah, there was a yard at the time, So he walks out to the back. Baker Style Center was at the corner over there.
Yeah.
And they had gangbangers in there. They was certified G's in there.
Yeah.
So Warren goes over to the barbershop, comes back over, and till this day, my man Randy Bass, I got to big him up too. He's another heavy duty Long Beach cat. His brother works for Baker Style Center till this day.
Okay.
Randy's been one of those connected cats to explain to a couple of them that didn't understand. He goes, they're hood dudes just like us. And a couple of them, well, I don't understand. And I don't like this, I don't like that. And they got these dudes with them and they don't look like us. And
was the money ever an issue? Like, if he's making money here, we need a cut type thing?
there was one time that they attempted to try to tax us,
Yeah.
right? And we were going, huh? What's that? And no, you get money, right? Oh yeah. And I was homeless too, so I was hungry.
Yeah.
You ain't taking nothing off of me. As a matter of fact, what you got to eat? We ain't paying no taxes to you or anybody else. And you could tell whoever you need to tell. We don't pay taxes in here. Period.
Yeah.
And if you got to go escalate. They brought somebody else in there, and we explained. As a matter of fact, my man Bernardino, he came out one time. He had this big, huge quaguas pendant,
Yeah.
big, stupid chain on, and the dudes in the neighborhood wanted to rob him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the dudes in the neighborhood, don't think about it. Don't even think about it. Bernardino at the time, he's like 5'9".
So it was like
short
it
cat,
was
right?
like a big old controversy going down there.
Quite a bit. But
Do you
then,
think we'll ever see the shop come back?
I always said that if we see it, it'll be a museum with the shop in it. There's enough stuff that I've put together.
Oh, so you
when
have
it
some stuff under your belt at the pad.
there's- Yeah, when it happens. And some of you guys did pieces in black books that I still have.
Oh, you still have them?
I still got them. And then we're talking at least almost 15 years for a couple of y'all.
I'm hoping that we get to see it open again, because when I drive by there, even if I'm with a rider or someone that's trying to ride, I'm like, bro, you don't seem to understand what this meant to Long Beach right here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even there's a boxing gym down there, and it's like people go over there for VIP records.
Yeah.
But I try to be like, bro, all respect to VIP records, but that little corner right there meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And I want to personally say thank you, bro, for your contribution to the graffiti out here and opening up the shop. Because if you wouldn't have done that, bro, I don't think all that stuff that came with it would ever came to the city.
I hear that a lot, and in kids these days, I've had a couple tell me, I've got family today, and I used to go to you when I was 12 years old. I'm in my 20s now,
Yeah.
a couple in their 30s, 40s.
With kids now and stuff.
With kids, they got families. I've seen some people elevate their styles, and they tell me, well, we learned that from that shop, and I'm going, wow, and I say I'm a vehicle for it. It was an idea that was a gift. The idea itself was a gift.
Yeah.
And if I keep that gift to myself, being in a place, that's not a gift no more. And
Yeah.
it's a gift when you can share it with somebody, even spray can caps. I remember I was making markers for kids, the streaks, we're splitting streaks for them.
And it's memories that stay ingrained into their brain and they never forget it.
It's embedded in mine and in my heart in a lot of ways. And then these kids is telling me it's in my heart and mind too, as of today. And I still hear that, and,
Man,
it's a soft spot for me because
That's dope, bro, because knowing that you've touched all these people must be a wonderful feeling.
yeah.
And before I let you go out of here, brother, I got one last question for you.
Sure.
What can you tell that kid that's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna start painting, I'm gonna get into the world of graffiti right now, tomorrow, or might watch this and get inspired by you? What will you tell that kid?
The same thing that I said all along, and it's the same thing that I was taught that I told you earlier. If you come up with a tag, do something with your tag. Create some styles out of it, get your style. After you get your tag, get you a throwy. Figure out how that's supposed to look. Do something with that. Start piecing. Start drawing. And once you figure out where you are with that, add stuff to it. And then as you keep adding, the person inside of you that started is going to be happy with the person 10 years deep, 20 years deep, 30 years deep, 40 years deep.
Yeah.
The person later on is going to be happy because, like I say today, I haven't stopped, and
You have to have
it's got to
that.
do it differently.
You have to have
do it
that
different.
dedication and tell yourself, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, and it's it's a power that's inside of us. It's the same way that the DJ could catch a break real quick. I don't know how a DJ could do that. The same way that the cat could do a handstand and flip off into this freeze. Like, how do you do that? You know, the MC that's gifted with such awesome poetry at the top of their head. How do you do that? Man, same thing with graffiti. Anybody you're thinking about it, stay dedicated to it. Don't stop. Look, I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
I started before I was in my teens.
Yeah.
If you find something, and Nacy used to say this too, to his credit, we don't talk where we normally would or used to, but he used to say, when you find something, and this is a good general comment too, to his credit, if you find something that you love doing, keep doing it every day, because at some point, if it becomes your job, it ain't work. Definitely. It's like you guys here. I'm looking around over here. You guys is having fun up in here, man. Look at this, man.
I want to thank you again, brother, for stopping by and talking graph. Is there any shout outs you want to give out before we wrap it up?
I think it's really important for my heads here in Long Beach. We got Dooms, Space, Thoughts, Randy, you know, Bus, you know, all y'all cats out here. Y'all know who you are. 777s, everybody in 777s. You know, Humob Cats, you know, there's a lot of dudes, FEDs, BOSs, I mean, all the way deep into LA, you know, UTI, I2W. I can't just put names. Yeah. I just got to say them as a whole, because every writer out here has something special.
Definitely.
And the ones that I had an opportunity or the honor to meet is big ups even today. You know, I remember my man Fear from UTI DCV. We still send each other messages here and there, you know, it's those types of things. And I appreciate that today, because whatever we did years ago, it's an era that's gone. You know, they say like an age stops and then a new age comes, you know. So
it's like a new era of hip hop. It keeps evolving.
Yeah, it keeps evolving, you know. And so stay doing what you're doing and keep doing it. And I think that's the thing, because even when you get old like me, or even older, and you got guys that are older than I am, they're still doing their thing. Don't lose the passion for your craft.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Ronek. Make sure to like and subscribe. You heard it from the man himself, ZC. Y'all want to come on? Remember, all it takes is a DM. Much love, and we out.